So before we get started, a couple things that I want you to have for tonight's class. If you got a blanket, since you're at home watching this, grab a blanket. Be good to have one of these floating around. If you got a block or something that looks like a block, uh, it would be good to have a block to utilize for practice tonight. Um, we are going to focus tonight's class a bit on grounding and getting settled, and really working on just trying to find some stability in all of what's been going on. I think that's the hardest part I know for myself is this sense of uncertainty, this sense of instability that we are seeing take place in the world around us, right? So our root chakra, our Muladhara chakra, it represents stability. And when it is unstable and when the environment that we're in is unstable, you start to see the ramifications of that. So you see a lot more fear, you see a lot more hoarding behaviors, you see pretty much what we've kind of seen lately happening globally, universally, locally, all over the place. So my practice tonight is going to focus a little bit on maybe settling some of that energy down and just giving you a nice, easy way to take an hour out of your day, and not worry about anything. So, if you got space for yourself, make it good. Maybe turn some music on. Make it real. Make it about you. Make a moment for it. And if you're just working in the chaos, work in the chaos, but try to find your peace. So come to a comfortable seat. We're gonna open up with just a little bit of grounding meditation. So you could be seated like I am with my hips on my heels. You can come to a kind of crisscross applesauce kind of situation. You could put the blanket under the sit bones to elevate the hips. You could take whatever's comfortable for you. But once you take a seat and you allow yourself to get grounded, I want you to think about sitting up tall through the spine. Maybe let the shoulders relax down a little bit. And then put your eye gaze somewhere out in front of you, right? Hands can be on the thighs. I like to have my forearms resting on my knees. Or you can take your right hand, place the back of your right hand into your left palm and allow your thumbs to touch for this particular mudra, calm abiding mudra. Tuck your chin into your chest and then just allow your eye gaze to drift down. And as you sit, come to a comfortable seat. Allow yourself the opportunity to notice your breath. Notice the breath coming in and out of the nostrils. Mouth closed for this exercise. And maybe if you don't sense that breath rising and falling out of the nostrils, you start to witness and notice the belly rising and falling. Even if you gently bring one hand onto the belly, just start to get a sense for where your breath is tonight. Eyes remain open, but gaze remains soft and looking down. Really allowing yourself the opportunity to come to your meditation, even if you happen to feel a bit unstable, not really grounded like we talked about earlier. This is the time to let whatever thoughts arise. Simply work on releasing those thoughts without any type of judgment and coming back to your breath. Trying to find a bit of lightness, a bit of softness. And while you watch the breath, know that your mind is going to go away. It's going to run off. It's going to scamper away. It's going to think about all of the confusion and the chaos that's happening in the world right now. It's going to think about what's next. It's going to think about what's for dinner. It's going to think about what happened this week at work. And know that those thoughts are totally welcomed. Because the skill isn't in getting rid of the thoughts. The skill is in recognizing the thoughts and redirecting back to what you want to focus on, which is your breath, your anchor, your grounding, your center. Resist the urge to fidget, to run away, to get frustrated. Those are all part of the processes. It's all about being a kind witness to what arises, moment by moment, minute by minute, in the ever and unchanging awareness. The last 30 seconds. Slowly start to let the eye gaze lift. We're going to start off practice tonight in a child's pose for our first grounding pose, really helping to open up the inner thighs and really stretch out the hips. So a couple variations for child's pose. You can have your knees together and your hips on your heels, reach your hands forward. This is child's pose, so there's this option. If your body doesn't work like that, you need or want space, open your knees out a little bit wider, make space for your body. Come forward. This is child's pose, forehead down. The other variation is knees closed, hands bow down, third eye finds the mat. Tops of the feet stay grounded, head stays grounded. Hands stay grounded, either the front or backs of the hands. Either one is fine. Pick the pose that works for you and allow yourself to get comfortable. If you are using a bolster, you can open the knees and lie the chest on the bolster. Maybe resting the ears on top, or the right ear onto your bolster. And just allow yourself to enter the pose. Yin is about giving yourself the opportunity just to sit and hold these poses for time.
trying to find your edge, trying to create a little bit of sensation in the body. In this particular case, you're really trying to feel the connection of the hands, of the shins and the tops of the feet pressing into the ground, really feeling solid and rooted, supported, something that we haven't seen a lot of lately. When all the things around us are ever changing, find comfort in the fact that your body can support you, that your mind can support you, that your spirit can support you if given the opportunities to do so. You'll notice that maybe during the pose you feel the need to switch it up a bit. That's fine as well. No right or wrong. Taking our time, being soft, being gentle, really trying to work into the spleen and stomach meridians with these poses, targeting the inner thighs, tops of the feet, a little bit of the chest. Really trying to open up those energy channels, allowing energy to free flow from your root chakra all the way to your crown. Find a way to maybe get 5 to 10% more comfortable. Soften and let go. Any place you still feel tension. Slowly start to lift the crown of the head. Let the eye gaze come forward. Start to shift your hips forward. Let's take a tabletop position so that the hips stack over the knees. Fingertips are going to face forward. Good time to maybe think about taking a couple cat-cows to reset the spine a little bit. Inhale, belly drops. Pelvis tilts forward. Eye gaze lifts up and shoulder blades pull back. As you exhale, tailbone tucks, chin tucks into the chest. You round and curl. Inhale pulls you forward. Exhale draws you in. Inhale, find expansion. Exhale, round and curl. Take 2, 3 more of these. How many ever more of these you feel you need? Maybe you want to work the hips out a little bit here. Add a little bit to it. You're at home. Nobody's watching you. I can't say the same. Everyone's watching me. So there's that. Once you come back to neutral, turn the toes off to the side. Come onto your sit bones. Reach your feet out in front of you for caterpillar pose or seated forward fold. It's a good time to grab that blanket if you need to elevate the hips because the hamstrings are super tight or the hips might be super tight. Just bring that blanket underneath. It's good to have if you got that bolster. Goes right in between the legs a bit. So a couple options. This is good. This is good. Either one of these are fine. But we're going to start out from here with the legs extended. We're just going to add a little bit of fascia release, a little bit of elasticity practice. So it's really simple to do. It's not necessarily a yin thing, but it will get into the fascia. It will help you to loosen and break up the adhesions in the fascia, right? Like if you think of the fascia like silly putty, like it's real stuck together, and so you can pull putty apart. So this will make more sense in just a second. So from here, sit up tall, extend out the legs. And I want you to just reach forward. And as you do, notice that there's a kind of a natural little
rebound that the body does as you start to reach forward. We're just going to take some of those. It's not about whether or not you can touch your toes or how far the hands go, but it's really about the rebound effect. Really working to open up the back side of the body, right? And really create a little bit of length there. So we'll do those for 20. So 20 reps, real simple. So it's 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. Always go slow. 14 if you're uncomfortable. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, normally, with a little more time, I might do a couple more sets of those. If you like that, feel free to do that, either now or later. Just kind of take that with you. So just wanted to add a little bit of a sprinkle of yang. We can do that in yin. And they're designed for that. So a little bit different than what we typically do, but different is okay. So from here, we're going to take the traditional caterpillar pose that you might be used to. So decide if your knees are going to be bent because of whatever's happening on the back side of your body, or if they're going to be straight. And then start to sit up tall and reach your chest forward. Hands can come where they land, so either on your shin, your ankles, the edges of your feet, the tops of your feet. If you have a strap, you can bring that into play, wrap it around the feet and hold the strap. Whatever you decide, get there. We got like 3 minutes here, so you can keep the head up. You can take a block. You can rest the arms on a block. There is plenty of options abound. Find the options that tries to generate a stretch either along the back side of the legs or into the outer hips and the glutes, depending on where your body is. That's where you're looking to feel this. Find your edge, bump right up against it, and then breathe into it. Steady but strong breath. Maybe you smile. Close the eyes and imagine that smile traveling throughout the body, sending positive and uplifting energy throughout your mind and body. See if your body starts to give you space to open up. Maybe you start to deepen your fold. Maybe you're the complete opposite. Your body needs you to turn it down just for a little bit. So turn it down. You be a good steward of what you need. Take back the control. And just like in our meditation, if the mind starts to wonder why you sit in the pose or you start to focus on other things, don't rush. Simply allow yourself
the opportunity to come back to the breath. Start to come out of the pose nice and slow. If you are sitting on anything, go ahead and remove that. Take a counter pose by simply lying on your back. Just let the spine welcome in any changes that took place from that forward fold. Let the weight of your bones be heavy. Let the stress of the day melt away into the earth. Let your breath be full into the belly. Draw the knees into the chest. Hands reach around the thighs like this. If you have a strap, you can put that on the feet. If you have a towel or some kind, you can put that on the shins. You can also grab your shins. All this is going to depend on what your body lets you do. So do what you can do with what you've got, even if you have to open the knees a little bit wider. Just draw the knees into the chest. Rock and roll just a little bit. Rock and roll. Come up to a seat, cross at the ankles. And we're going to step our way to the front of the mat or wherever we're going. We're going to do dangling, which is just another version of forward fold. But this time we're going to do it standing. So we're going to use gravity in a different way than what we were previously using. You can grab a couple blocks. That's always nice. If you really can't forward fold very far and you have a chair nearby, you can bring that into play and kind of use that to fold forward on and maybe put your hands on the chair, on a low chair or a bench or a stool or something that'll fit. But I think you get the idea. So on the inhale, reach the hands up. As you exhale, bring the hands to heart center. Lift the toes, spread them, and allow them to rest comfortably on your mat. That way you can get grounded nice and steady here. Allow the roots of the feet to allow that energy to drift into the earth, feeling the solid, stable base that you have. Legs are firmly holding the upper body up. Draw your shoulder blades down the back. Nice. Hands at heart center. Inhale. As you exhale, bend your knees if you need to. Fold forward. Chin tucks into your chest. Eye gaze shoots directly behind you. From here, you have a couple options. If you can put your hands on anything to kind of help hold the weight of the head. If you've got a couple blocks, you can kind of do this. You can kind of bring your forearms down. You can reach for opposite elbows. But the goal is to try to make the head hang heavy so that you can kind of sway back and forth here in this forward fold. Now, if you're nowhere near this and you're a little bit higher, maybe it's a little uncomfortable, bend your knees a little bit more. Take your feet wider if your body requires it. Work yourself into the pose and then settle. Settle with whichever variation is going to work for you tonight. Let the head be very weighted. Let the arms be very weighted. Can you shift the weight more into the balls of your feet? Not so much that you fall over, just a bit more. The other variation is for you to put your head and your back against the wall, and it will act as a nice counterweight to help stretch you even deeper. Soften the toes a bit. Soften the knees a bit. Tuck the chin a little more. Slowly start to round up one vertebrae at a time. Let it go slow, slower than you think. Don't be quick to rush. No reason to rush. Nowhere to be. Head is the last thing to naturally rise. Shoulders soften. Feet, the weight and energy rebounds down into the feet. Maybe the back of the legs feel a little bit more activated now. Soft gaze forward. So you can stay at the front of your mat or you can turn sideways. Doesn't really matter. We're going into squat or malasana. It's called the non-yin poses. So before we get into that, I just want to show you a couple things. Typically, if you take a squat, sometimes you'll do this and you'll be high on your heels. I kind of don't want that. So if that means taking a little bit of a wider stance, well, take a wider stance. Heels in, toes out. If you have a block, this is nice. This will make this a lot more comfortable, as you'll see in just a moment. But when you come down into your squat, that lets you in here. Poses. There's only the way it works for you. Needs. So know that you always have the option to change it up as needed based on what you need, right? So sometimes we get stuck on the idea that a pose needs to look a certain way or be a certain way, but all it needs to be is valuable to you. So never let anyone tell you differently about that, including me. One of the things that happens is we work into these poses and we start to really massage and nourish and send blood flow into these meridians. Is each meridian's kind of attached to various organs. When I started, I told you this was about the spleen and the stomach. Well, the reason for that is part of the grounding and the things that make us feel grounded and stable is how we ingest and digest things, right? And so as we start to work these energy channels, we also affect those areas. So if you find yourself having digestive issues or not feeling the best right now, especially in today's climate, right? Like the sequence of poses is looking to target a lot of those areas to really start to provide a bit of relief and a little bit of comfort there. All right, so if you're in your malasana squat, whether with a block or without, now's the time for you to come out, start to straighten through the legs. Reach the hands up and overhead. Heel toe the feet out. I want you to take a wide-legged stance. This is just like we would have in a wide-legged forward fold position. We're going to do that, but we're going to, again, add a little bit of that balance, open up the back lines of the fascia in the body with just a little bit of that that elastic stretching. So hands will come behind the head. Lift up. Bring the elbows in. As you exhale, tuck the chin into the chest, start to round down. Yep. And you'll come down and find your little bob, right? And it's the same action. Keep the chin tucked into the chest as much as you can. Keep the core engaged. Keep the legs straight. And then bounce for 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands come down. Take a half lift on the inhale. Lengthen the spine. As you exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale brings the hands to heart center. And then we will bring the legs together and come onto our sits bones again. This time for butterfly pose. So again, if you need to elevate, a blanket under the hips is nice for that. If you don't need to do that, you don't have to do that. If you got your blocks around, it's a good time to bring them in. Show you what we'll do with those. Soles of the feet come together. Knees open up. This is butterfly pose. If you have really tight adductor muscles, it might be uncomfortable to really draw those heels in. Now, everybody's different, so maybe this is good for you, which is great. We're going to be here for 5 minutes, so decide on what feels good for you. Heels can separate a little further if you would prefer. Blocks can give you support until your knees can start to work their way down. I care more about your comfort here than your depth, but I also care about you finding your edge. So don't just show up in these poses and try not to feel anything. Targeting that outer hip, targeting those inner thighs. That's where I want this kind of to show up for you. Now, if you sit up tall, you'll work on length. If you draw your tailbone down and your pubic bone up and you reach your hands forward, you'll work on rounding through your thoracic, which is where I need to work. So this is where I'm going to hang out. Chin tucks into my chest. I'm going to let my eye gaze soften, and then I'm just going to be present with my breath and whatever comes up for me. I can say that, for me, this whole, with all that's been going on, right? We've been asked to stay in our homes, not to go out. I've been a good steward of that, and I had to go to the grocery store yesterday, and it was the first time in a long time that I felt fear. It was the first time I looked at a Walmart grocery basket and was like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that. It was nerve-wracking, to say the least. And I mean, it's no one's fault. It's just the conditions of the day, right? But it did make me think a lot about what is that fear? Where does fear come from? I think we all know part of it starts with our mind, right? And then that becomes a story. For me yesterday, it was, oh my God, I can't touch the basket. I can't touch the credit card machine. What about all the stuff on the shelf? Oh, don't bump into me. This is how our brain works. It sees a bunch of things, it collects data, and then it strings that data together to present us with the story. And then it's on us to take that story and then run with it, or, learn to let it go, or provide facts and truth to help, offset that story. None of that's easy, though. And I was fortunate to have this practice of being able to witness and release, and witness and release, and understanding, I don't have to go down those rabbit holes if I don't choose to. But it really got me thinking about all the people that don't have a practice, don't know that, right? And I also made me not want to go outside anymore. So I don't know why people are having a hard time staying in. I don't want to go outside. I'd rather just be at home. It's within my control, at least whatever that means, right? But that's what we're doing when we sit in these poses. We're learning to find those stories. That is what the path of meditation, whether that's through seated like we did when we started class, or through movement when we're sitting in these poses and we are allowing ourselves an opportunity to be a witness to what our thoughts do. If you watch long enough, you'll see your own patterns and your own stories. And then you'll know what to do when they come up. And whether or not you should chase them down or let them go. And that doesn't mean things get easier. It doesn't mean that problems go away. It means that you get clear, that you see the signal through the noise. I'm a huge Matrix fan, so it's like when Neo learned to see the code, right? That's what happens. You learn to see what your mind is doing. And you also learn that you don't have to be its subject. Slowly start to come up and out of the pose. Maybe close the knees. Move your blocks out of the way. Reach your legs forward. Windshield wiper the legs. Let that kind of happen. Point and flex the feet. Straddle pose is our next pose that we'll be going to. Boop. Stay over there. So for this pose, any of these seated poses, so just so you know, hi Harley. This is my cat Harley. She only likes to come around when I'm doing something. So there's that. But any of these seated poses, a blanket can totally be used to elevate the hips. So you can keep that right where it's at. And so we're going to come in a straddle, which is wide-legged, seated, wide-legged, fold. Yep, same pose, only now the legs open up a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean whatever your range of motion is, right? So that could be a lot. That could be not so much. That could be with the knees bent. Looks a lot of different ways. But you want to be able to feel this in the legs, in the hips, and maybe in the inner thighs a little bit. Allow your toes to rotate out in whichever position you go. That'll really target these meridians on the inside. Yes, Harley. Since you're also at home, I will also throw in the wall variation of this. So go to a wall, scoot your legs up on the wall, and do the exact same thing and let gravity do the work for you. Same pose, just in a different way. So if you take the wall variation, you'll be lying on your back. Your hands will come to your inner thighs. You'll simply allow yourself to rest in the pose and let gravity take you further down. If you're like me, which is how I'm going to demo it out for us, then all you're going to do is stay seated up tall if you want. If you got a block, you can kind of do this number and allow yourself to come forward. If you can't do that, hands can just be here. Chin can rest nice and long, spine nice and long. Toes continue to turn out a bit. Of course, for my uber flexible folks in the building, you can start to come on, down until your chest touches the ground.
And then drop back in. Check in with your body. See if there's some extra space you can utilize. Can you maybe fall down a little deeper? Reach the hands forward a little more. And then settle back in onto your breath. It's always coming back to the anchor. Always coming back home. We focus so much on the breath because the breath is everywhere you go, right? It is one of the few systems that is both an automatic system and part of the ANS, our automatic nervous system, or our atomic nervous system, basically the system that just works without us paying attention to it. But it's also part of our consciousness. Start to walk yourself out of the pose. It's part of our consciousness, so we can control it, right? It's within our conscious control. Bend the knees. Drop one right knee in. Drop left knee in. Windshield wiper both knees. There we go. Just kind of work through the hip joint. See what sticks. Nice and easy. That's funny. Take your blanket out. The funny was my wife was yelling at my cat because my cat wants something that my wife said doesn't belong to her. And I just find it hilarious because, life is happening. It's always happening, regardless. That is the one thing I've learned in lieu of all of these changes is that life is happening, regardless of whether or not you like it or want it. Start to come onto your sit bones. Roll onto your back. It is our job to adjust and make do with what we got. And it's all going to be all right. Stirrup pose is what it's called in yin. What is called in non-yin circles is happy baby. What it's called to some people is having a baby. That's an inside joke to some of my students. Either way, it's a fun pose, but not the one of the more vulnerable ones, we'll say. All right, knees in to the chest, hands reach onto the shins, flex the toes, circle the ankles a little bit. Maybe you rock and roll on the spine a little. Start to open the knees like a book. Grab the outer knife edges, blade. There's lots of names for it. Grab the edges of your feet. Soles of the feet reach up towards the ceiling. Knees draw down. Chin tucks in. Use your arms as a lever here to kind of draw things down. The goal is to one day work the knees all the way down to the ground. Now, often what will happen is you'll come here and you'll do this. Doop, and you're like, hey, my knees are getting closer. But your hips, see, obviously my tailbone's coming up. Don't do that. Tailbone goes down, lengthen, and then pull.
It's not about the knees going down. It's about stretching out all of this situation right there. Inner thighs, outer hips. That's where the work is. Each breath, let it be softer than the last. Let your awareness be here with you. Can you send any of that softness into a tense part of your body right now? Can you offer a smile? Slowly start to bring the soles of the feet back together. Let the feet come onto the mat. Take the feet wider than mat's distance. Drop knees into the right. Open up. Drop knees into the left. Open up. And just keep going back and forth till you feel the tension kind of let go. And then stop and center. Soles of the feet find their way onto the mat. We are going to take supported bridge pose. So if you have a block or something that looks like a block, now's the time to find it. If you have two blocks, that's even better, because you can do the 2 block variation. I'll show you both. So either one's fine. Work with what you have as always. Feet are going to be roughly hips distance apart. Now, some of us, it might feel better to go wider, or for some of us, it might feel better to be a little closer in. So kind of test where your feet feel good and feel stable. Okay? Kind of get a sense for that. I like mine closer to my sit bones, so I draw my heels a little bit closer to my butt. Lift up. If you got one block, pick a setting, high, medium, low. Place it underneath your sacrum. This is your supported bridge pose. Now, if you got 2 blocks, do the same thing. Only place them on the outer edges of your sacrum. So not in the center necessarily, but more so closer to the edges so that they support you. Your chin tucks into your chest. Your hands can stay down by your side. Your feet can stay grounded, or you can straighten your legs for more of a psoas variation, because it's going to stretch across this front of your body right here. And then tuck your chin into your chest and just be here. you're still playing along, moving along through the flow, give yourself a bit of loving kindness. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you be free of suffering. And may you be supported. It's hard to show up for ourselves, especially when everything else wants our attention. But I would argue that now is the time you need to show up. More than ever. There's an old saying, I don't know if it's old, but there's a saying that says, if you ask a man to meditate for 20 minutes and he says that he can't, then he probably should for 2 hours. It's hard to do the things we need when we know we need them and everything around us is screaming otherwise. But if you can find a way to do it, you'll learn that it makes your ability to be clear and to be focused better. And isn't that what we want? To be able to make decisions for ourselves and our loved ones from a place of confidence and a place of love and not a place of fear. To know that we're going to be okay. Well, in case no one's told you, you're going to be okay. It's good to hear it, though. Let the center of your body be heavy. Feel the limbs get light. And let the breath be soft. Soles of the feet, bring them onto the mat. Elevate the hips, take the blocks out. Lie down. Legs out in front of you, arms by your side. Maybe you take up a little more space in this Shavasana. You're at home. Ain't nobody next to you unless you got a loved one. In that case, it's not weird to touch their hand or something. So take up a little more space. And as you lie here, let this be about you sensing the body and what you feel within the body. Feel your prana. Feel your breath. Feel your body move. Can you feel the energy flowing through you as you lie here on the mat? Maybe it's a slight pulse. Maybe it's your heartbeat. Maybe it's your breath. Soles of the feet come onto the mat. We're going to take a gentle twist, belly twist. So lift the hips and shift them to the right. Keeping the natural S curve of the spine. Drop the knees to the left. Soles of the feet point towards the bottom of your mat. Maybe you lift that right arm up so you can wiggle your left arm into position. And then you drape it down. Of course, if you have the space, I do not, because there's a beautiful cactus right there. I can't straighten my legs, but if you want to straighten your legs, go ahead. I'll show you on the other side. If someone loves you, they can come pull on your hip right here, create some length for you. If you got a kid that ain't doing anything, or a spouse that's not doing anything, they can come help you out. Slowly start to bring those knees, well, if your legs are straight, bring them back to bent. Now bring your knees up. There we go. Soles of the feet come onto the mat. You can guess what I'm going to say, but I know you're smart people. Hips lift. Go the other direction, all the way to the left. Yep. Draw your knees in. Feet are going to fall out to the right this time. Lift your left hand up. Work your right shoulder down. There you go. Get in a position. Drop your left hand open. Soles of your feet go that way. Legs straighten if you want to. This is a little more intense variation, so maybe you don't like it. You come back here. No right or wrong, just you. And you're not wrong. You're not always right, but you're definitely not wrong. These last little bit of twists to help massage the stomach and the digestive organs and all of those things, right? I talked a lot about metaphors, but I seriously think you need to pay very close attention to what you ingest, what you allow into your world, especially when there's so much noise going on. Take a time out from this shit. I do. I listen to the news in the morning, and I listen to it before I go to bed, and I'll listen to it any other time of the day. Because it's intense. Like if you just allow yourself to, just like the mind, right? Like if you just let it run away, like it's going to do that. It's just going to keep looking for more information because you're trying to find comfort. Your television is not where you find comfort. We find comfort in the things that we do, and when we can't have those, we find comfort inside. You have everything you need. You've just been told you don't. Slowly start to bring the knees back. Bend the knees back if you need to because the legs were extended. All right. couple options to close out practice tonight. If you have blocks, bring them underneath the knees for your final Shavasana, like that. If you got that blanket, well, you can get all cozy with it. I'm not going to do it, but for the purposes of this video, you get it. Put a blanket on, get comfortable. Lay back down. Arms fall out to the side. Chin tucks into your chest. Eyes closed. Be with your awareness. Be with your mind and body. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do except be right here. Coming back to this sense of all knowing, all being, all having. Feel free to stay here in your Shavasana for as long as you need. Thank you for spending time with the yoga practice with me on the mat tonight. I hope to see you again soon. Namaste, everyone.